Hello. So I have been growing orchids since 2010, but I don't feel like it was until 2012 that I started successfully growing them, getting reblooms and getting into different orchids and growing and whatnot. But I've been growing semi-hydroponically for 2 years. So this is my 2-year update on growing semi-hydroponic orchids. I've really liked it. I have notes. I've really liked it, but I found myself thinking, do I really need the leca beads? Could I just kind of do old-fashioned hydroponics? So hydroponics is growing in water. Water. Our orchids are epiphytes. They grow in the trees. They grow with their roots free and naked in the breeze. Or on rocks. That doesn't have to be a tree, but they don't grow in soil. They are not a terrestrial plant. Having their roots exposed to air and in water, that's how they grow naturally. And it kind of just makes sense that you would grow these plants in a semi-hydroponic way. But I don't think we need leca beads. I'm starting to think that maybe bare root is the way to go. So I'm experimenting more and more with it. Or just straight up, you can call it hydroponics, you can call it bare root, or you can call it water culture. But I don't like the word water culture. I don't like that saying. Because to me, culture is a characteristic of a particular group of people. That's not what this really is. Or it could be growing bacteria, tissue, or in an artificial media containing nutrients. Okay, I guess. But when I hear culture, I think of bacteria. So I just don't like it. It's bare root. The roots are bare. They're naked. They're free. So you will not hear me refer to it as water culture. I don't know. I just don't like that word. Anyways. Why? Why switch from leca beads? What's wrong with the leca beads? I got some pros and cons listed here. So, the pro, growing semi-hydroponically is easy. It really is. You get a plastic container, you drill some holes, you have a reservoir, ta-da. You can't overwater. It's all good. It's easy. And that's the other one. You can't overwater. There's good airflow to the roots. And I find that it is great for succulents. I grow my succulents and cactus in a leca bead in a clay pot. And it's fabulous for those plants. But let's talk about the bad side. The bad side is these leca beads are expensive. This one in particular has some sediment buildup on here. Salt buildup is an issue. You have to flush them. Okay, I'm gonna get into my eco side. You have to flush when you use the system because of the sediment and the salt buildups. So I end up using at least 10 gallons of water every time I water my orchids in semi-hydro. That's a good amount of water used for how many plants I have here, which is almost 50. So it's not a water conscious way of growing your plants. The other thing that's not eco-friendly are the beads themselves. Beads are volcanic rock that's fired in a kiln and yada yada, but they're mined. These leca beads are actually mined. They are digging up mountains and hills to get these clay pebbles for us to grow with. So they're not a sustainable source. This is not sustainable. They also grow algae. This has only been in this pot for about 5 months, and I already have thick algae, and that shit stinks. And the only way to clean the algae that grows in the bottom of these pots is to take the whole thing out and repot it. That's a pain in the butt. I don't have to go and repot my plant every 5 months because of the nasty, gross algae that's growing. No, I don't like that. So that's kind of been bothering me about this setup. And those, to me, those are some pretty big cons. Oh yeah, and buying these leca beads is kind of expensive. You have to go to the hydroponic store, and you have to, and usually the hydroponic stores are just where people go to get supplies for their weed. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I've grown cannabis, so that's not a problem. But for you, other growers out there, that might be a problem. So let's get back to why. Why do my epiphytic plants need anything around their roots, really? The answer is they don't need anything around their roots. They don't need clay around their roots. They don't need any of that. What they need is moisture and nutrients. That's it. They need fertilizer, they need some good humidity, and they're fine. So, since these are not terrestrial plants, and in fact, they can use their roots for photosynthesis. Their roots are green because there's chlorophyll in their roots. So this is a plant that does not benefit from having its roots buried in something. So knowing that, and then seeing how beautiful the roots were that were growing in the reservoir. Do you see these roots here? Focus. Look at that nice root. There's algae growing on that root. But I have a lot of root growth in the reservoir. This reservoir here should always have water in it. And so I find that I got roots growing in the reservoir. That's basically roots growing in water. That is basically hydroponics. So I figured I had like this enlightened moment where I realized I don't need leca beads. And I need to get over that word, the word water culture. And I do think that everybody else needs to get over it and maybe just move on and just call it bare root. Growing your orchids bare root and natural, naked and free. Because, you know, I've read in the beginning of keeping orchids that mounting your orchid was the best way to grow them. If you can grow your orchid mounted, your orchid will be so happy. Well, in my environment, it's cold and it's dry, and I've tried mounted orchids. I've tried my Tolumnias mounted. Yeah, they were happy, but I wasn't happy. Because when you have a mount, you have this stick or log or something, and you have to water it, and when you water it, you get drips everywhere, and then it has to dry, and it drip dries, and it's just a mess. Mounted orchids are a pain in the ass. But hey, put an orchid in glass, problem solved. This uses a lot less water, since you really only need that much water at the bottom. Depending on the type of orchid you're growing, you can also just let it dry out and then just add a little bit of water. I just think that this is the way to go. So I'm going to start experimenting more and more with bare root orchids growing in water. So this spring I'll be switching over a lot more, because let me tell you about what I thought of the pros and cons for bare root and water. Basically it's free. You don't have to buy any media. There's no media breaking down. There's no decomposing. So it's pretty much free. You can get containers anywhere. You can get containers at the dollar store. thrift stores, your house, a friend. I mean, the containers are cheap, easy to find. And there's no media to buy, so that's nice. You can see the roots, which I love. You can straight up see all of the roots, and you can tell what is actually going on with your plant. You can see the new roots growing, you can see the new root growth, or the plant growth, because a lot of times the plant will shoot out a new growth so close to the bottom that you can't really see it. You can see everything when they're naked. You can't overwater. I mean, you kind of can, but you're just drowning them. So, takes the guesswork out of that. Easy to clean if you use glass. You can just scrub it out, a little scrubby. Clean the algae. Yes, there is algae buildup that will happen or can happen when you're growing in water. But it's way easier to just take the plant out, clean the glass, put it back in, than to take all the beads out and redo the whole thing. So, there's no repotting mess. It's super eco-friendly as far as water goes, and no need for media. It's natural. It's really the way that orchids and epiphytes were meant to be grown, naked and free. It's a space saver, I feel like, because roots can be bundled together in a way, where I find that we can kind of, fit them in a tighter spot. Whereas if you have a bunch of media taking up a bunch of space, you need a larger pot so you can fit the media and the roots in that pot. So I find that the spare root method would be a space saver. And there's good humidity that goes throughout the whole plant. You have good humidity to the roots down here. Look at those beautiful roots growing. Humidity to the plant itself. It makes so much sense. The only thing is this one's drowning right now. It's a little bit there. The thing that you have to remember when you're growing them in water, bare root, not mounted, and this is the only tricky part I found, and this is what killed my aquaponics phalaenopsis. You can't have too much of the root in water. So depending on the type of orchid, you can go kind of a half and half ratio. So you can do half the roots in water and half the roots out of the water. Or you could just do root tips in the water. Depending on your orchid and its water needs. And you can let them dry out. So it's great for vacations. It's also good for if you're going to be gone for a long time and you want someone to take care of your orchids. It's easy to just say, hey, keep this much water in there. And then you don't have to worry about your orchids being killed while you're gone. That's pro. So in my 2 years of growing in semi-hydroponics, I've discovered that I don't need the semi part. I can go full on hydro. So let's stop calling this aquaponics. No, aquaponics would be growing in here. Let's call this, I don't want to call it water culture. I really don't. I'm sorry if that offends you that I don't like that word. I don't like it. This is hydroponics. We're using water to grow a plant. So let's call this growing orchids hydroponically instead of semi-hydro. Okay? Or bare root. I like bare root. Or naked. Growing orchids naked. Anything's better than horticulture. But sorry. That's where I'm at right now. So stay tuned for springtime because I will be switching over. I got a few orchids I have in mind to switch into water. So stay tuned on that next adventure of mine. Thanks for watching. Please feel free to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I do have a bunch of leca beads, so I think I'll do a plant giveaway, and I will definitely be giving away leca beads to anybody that wants to experiment with semi-hydro but doesn't want to go and get a huge bag. So help me get to that 1,000 subscribers, and I will do some giveaways. Alright, so thank you. Have a great day. Happy growing.